Sometimes I feel like the universe does not want me to be on the internet because I just filmed about 20 minutes of conversation, but I didn't because I didn't have any more storage on my SD camera. So if you are joining me, welcome. You're probably finding me from my email newsletter, where I shared a little bit about my trip to Jamaica. I'm sitting here on my patio drinking my Blue Mountain coffee with some Sangster's rum cream in it. If you didn't find me from my email newsletter, you probably should go subscribe to it on my website, edibility.com. I share stuff every week. So we went on a Bougie and Bohemian Jamrock family vacation. And when I tell you that vacation was executed perfectly, with the exception of some delays with flights and some funky attitudes from the kids sometimes, everything went off without a hitch. We had a truly Bougie and Bohemian experience. So Bougie and Bohemian. I wanted some part of it to be luxurious. I wanted to be pampered. I wanted to just be taken care of. So that's the bougie part of it. The Bohemian part was more like a beach resort. We kind of chilled. We're more laid back. So I'll talk about each of those places separately. Hector and I did not grow up with money. I grew up with even less money than he did, and I struggled for most of my young adult life. And we've worked very hard as adults to provide a life where we can travel and travel in a different way than I ever traveled as a young adult. I never went anywhere, never took a vacation. We want different for our kids. We also want to show our children who are Black and Puerto Rican. A lot of times we're not represented in these spaces and we're not seen. So our goal as parents is to teach our children that they belong in these spaces. If they can pay the money to be there, they belong there just as much as other people do. Also, just to give them the experience of travel. I believe traveling makes you a better person because it opens your eyes to other cultures, cuisines, traditions, experiences. I remember on one of our tours, a woman and we went to use the bathroom prior to the tour starting, and she's of a different race than me, and she said, this bathroom is better than I expected. And I kind of looked at her and said, well, what were you expecting? It's the implication that because we're not in the States, things are going to be so deplorable or lower class. It's the insinuation that she expected it to be a lot worse off because of where we were. And I let her know that that wasn't cool, because that is the mentality of a lot of tourists when they go outside of the States, especially. And that's the reason why we want to travel frequently with our children and give them those experiences so that they can be more worldly and that they can also appreciate other cultures. I adore Jamaican culture. I've been a part and around and inside of the Jamaican culture for much of my life. I spent many years in the dance hall, but I also was a Rastafarian for 3 years. So I got to know a different side of Jamaican culture, Rastafarian culture, living an idle life. And anytime I'm in Jamaica, I feel at home. My family often notices me just gazing off to the mountains, looking at the trees. I just feel at home in Jamaica, even though I'm not Jamaican. But the reality is, all of the Caribbean islands, we all share a common background. We have the same indigenous ancestors. We have the same African ancestors. You have to remember that during the slave trade, African enslaved peoples were dropped off at the various islands. So we have the same ancestry there, and we also have the same colonizer ancestry. Every time I go to Jamaica, I just feel at home. Arriving in Jamaica, we paid for the Club Mobe VIP service, which is basically they fast track you through customs. I recommend it because I am not a fan of lines. I don't like being around people too much. That's why I became a chef. The representative from Club Mobe met us at the gate, walked us through customs really quick. I think we took a picture, answered some questions. We had already filled out a form, which you have to fill out declaring anything you're bringing into Jamaica. It's a typical customs form. You can fill it out 7 days ahead. which is what we did. And then we got straight to our bags. Because we flew business, we had priority tags on our bags, so we were able to get those quickly. We were out of the airport, all told, in 20 minutes. I think we just got a bottle of water from the Club Mauve Lounge when we arrived. Round Hill provides transportation to and from the airport. So we just walked to their desk, talked to the concierge, and our driver, who I will call G, met us at the front at the arrivals and packed our stuff up into a van that was a little bit too small and drove us to Round Hill, which is in Hopewell, in the parish next to the parish that Mauve is in. It was probably about a 20 to 30 minute drive, so it wasn't that long. G gave us a lot of tourist, information and tips and talked to us about stuff. If you've ever been to a Caribbean island, you know the roads. They're bumpy, they have potholes, they have goats sometimes. It was typical drive. We passed the KFC, which we made note of because we wanted to go eat KFC the first night we were in Jamaica. Jamaican KFC is like something different. I don't know what they put in their chicken. I don't know what they use to season it, but it is unlike any KFC I've ever had in my life. It is so good. Round Hill. Why did I pick Round Hill? I love the movie How Stella Got Her Groove Back. And I said to myself, if I ever could afford it, I wanted to go to the hotel that Stella stayed. I know this is crazy. I wanted to go to the hotel that Stella stayed in How Stella Got Her Groove Back. So Round Hill. Now, we didn't stay in the villas because the villas are, but we did stay in an oceanfront room with a patio. But G dropped us off at Round Hill. We dropped off all our luggage. The reception was lovely. They greeted us with rum punch and another, I think it was a green tea lemongrass situation. And we were taken to our room and it was beautiful. It's just like the pictures, there was a balcony or like a little patio with a seating area and a pathway that led to the pool. And then further on, you were dropped right at the beach, like straight on the beach, which was always quiet. Even though there were kids there, it was very quiet. The entire place was serene. That's the way I'll describe Round Hill. There are no TVs in the rooms in Round Hill. So just make note of that. If you're a TV person, which we are not, we usually use our rooms to get ready, to sleep, and to nap. And we always bring our tablets anyways, and there's Wi-Fi. So we have a TV, but there are none in the room. The room came, they had amenities, they had Appleton rum, and the bed was comfortable, so comfortable. We had a king-size suite attached to a double suite, which the kids stayed in, and it was connected by a door. The grounds are pristine, always kept nice. Every staff member that we walked past and said good morning to or greeted were very friendly and engaging. Round Hill is a massive property. They have a pickleball court, they have a spa, which we use later in our trip. They have a library, a TV room, they have restaurant, they have a bar, again, a pool and a beach. The entire place was just calm and peaceful. Round Hill offers the option to add a meal plan to your stay. We opted to do the breakfast meal plan because we intended to be off property most of our trip, but I kind of wish we did do the meal plan because I hated dealing with the checks at the end of the meals. My first 3 days there, I ate nothing but ackee and saltfish with kalaloo and provisions and fried dumplings every day, with Jamaican Blue Mountain coffee and Sangster's rum cream. And, they had a good range of options for this breakfast. You could stay 3 or 4 days and not repeat your meal. So that was good for me. The only thing that I didn't like about their food was that I found it to be bland and I found it to not be Jamaican enough. I feel like they, for lack of a better word, dumbed it down for American palates or European palates. So that's just my personal opinion about their food. I do also wish there were more culturally relevant foods presented on their menus. We ate at their beach barbecue, which was fantastic. They had a roasted pig. They had, all I remember was the roasted pig, I'm gonna be honest, because I was able to get an ear of the roasted pig. What's funny is that I happened to just connect with 2 other chefs that were there on vacation with their family. And it was the cutest thing. We're just all like sitting there collaborating as chefs. But yeah, the beach barbecue was well worth the money. There was plenty of food. It was a buffet style. And then the following day, we celebrated the twins' 21st birthday with their a la carte menu. The meals were fine. They weren't anything that I'm gonna like rave about because they weren't unique enough and they didn't have enough flavor for me. I do recommend adding their meal plan if you plan to stay on the property for most of your stay. We always tip in cash because I feel like the wait staff and the housekeeping and the porters appreciate putting money in their pocket and taking it home at the end of the day. But you can always add the tip and also obviously charge it to your room. Now, let me tell you about G. So, G again was our transportation. He was our driver. Round Hill assigns you a driver from start to finish. So, if he picks you up from the airport, that's the person that's going to drop you off at the airport and take you on all your excursions that you book through Round Hill. Now, G, we had planned to obviously go to KFC for dinner the first night we were there. And then the following day, we asked him to take him on a tour of Mobe that he would do himself as a Jamaican, right? A personalized tour. And we were all set, and he was going to transport us to Negril later on. But G got greedy because when we went to KFC, he pulled out, he was talking to somebody on the phone. I don't speak patois, but I understand it fluently. And he was collaborating with somebody on the phone to meet him at KFC, and to park a certain way, and he was on his way. So I'm already like, my spidey senses are going up. I grew up in the hood. I grew up around the hood. I grew up doing hood and I know the hustle because I've had to hustle in my life. So my spidey senses go up and I'm already on the alert. And we get there and he says, well, the drive-through line is really long, which it wasn't. And he said, let me go check inside to see how many people are there, how crowded it is. He goes inside, and that's our first mistake because we should have gone inside with him. If for no other reason to say we've been inside a Jamaican KFC. Well, we didn't go, we stayed in the car. And he came back and said there was too many people and it's going to be super crowded. It's going to be over an hour to get our food. But he knows a guy. Now, I've heard about these KFC porters. They go in and kind of talk to a friend of theirs who has the hookup, and they get your food faster than if you were to wait online. I knew it wasn't unheard of. He asked the guy to come over, and it turns out it's his brother. And this guy goes to get our order. Comes back with half the order, didn't even get all our stuff. But G paid him in Jamaican dollars. And I'm calculating how much our food is in USD, and we eat the food. It's fire. It's everything everybody said it was. That was probably the most flavorful food besides Scotchies that we had in Jamaica, which is saying something. So we get back to the hotel and my husband Hector is like, okay, how much do we owe you? And this man said like $175. Child, I laughed in the back of the car. I said, you are crazy. You're mad. He explains that, the food costs this much, and I gave the porter 1,000 Jamaican dollars, and the ride costs $90. Now, we talked him down from the ride because we realized that, this ride is about $80, even with the private transportation. But the food, nah, bro. You get a 54 US dollars because that's how much it was, plus the $1,000 Jamaican dollar tip for the porter. G lost us right there because we're very generous people. We tip very well. I've been in the hospitality industry too long to tip poorly. And we had planned to use him for the next 3 or 4 days. And because he got greedy trying to scam us on the KFC, he lost out on the money plus tips from the tours. So when we got back, we told the concierge that we won't be using him anymore. We'll be using our own transportation. And he asked why, and I didn't want to like be a Karen and be like, oh, because he did this. It's just we weren't comfortable with him anymore because we couldn't trust him to take care of us. Because that's what you do as a tour guide. You hook up the people that you're taking around and you benefit from it with your tip. But G got greedy, so he lost us. Round Hill has plenty of excursions and stuff like that, but I prefer to book my own excursions because I like private excursions. Our first full day in Jamaica, we booked a trip with Tour Jamaica Today to go to Blue Hole, Dunn's River Falls, and I think we just ended up at Scotchies afterwards. It was just kind of an add-on to our tour. But Blue Hole and Dunn's River Falls were our goals for the day. If you've ever been to Jamaica, you know that those are the two biggest spots to hit up. But we got picked up early in the morning on time by Mr. Winston, who is the most charming. I mean, I want to adopt him as my grandfather. He is the coolest. He would tell dad jokes. He was very safe when he was driving, but he was very informative. We learned so much about Jamaican bush medicine in the day that we spent with Mr. Winston. He practices bush medicine. He grows things on his farm. He would show us pictures of like his cocoyam and all the things that he was growing on his farm and tell us about recipes that could help with this, that, or the other. I mean, just a wealth of knowledge about the Jamaican landscape and flora and fauna. So if you can get Mr. Winston as your tour guide through Tour Jamaica today, please do it, because you will not regret it. He was such a kind, just sage man. He has so much wisdom about the Jamaican culture and the food. And that's something that I really, really value. The trip from Hopewell to Blue Hole was about 2 hours, and the 2 hours flew by. We learned a lot about Jamaican society and the way they operate and, you know, what they do and what they don't do. He did tell us that G scammed us, or tried to scam us, because what he said was just like, that don't add up. But we arrived at Blue Hole, and when you get to Blue Hole, they were going to give you a guide, because it is a very, like, you need a guide at Blue Hole. It's basically a pit of water, and you can jump from certain heights into the water. Entrance is $20 for Blue Hole, and you get your guide. You're gonna have to tip your guide, so $20 per person plus the tip for the guide, which you should do, because them guides be keeping you from killing yourself. There's one time where you can jump, and he tells you don't jump head first, you jump
feet first.
You jump right there. So you need a guide at Blue Hole. It was an experience of a lifetime. The place is beautiful. It's like Eden. If you could picture Eden, Nirvana or Jannah, that is exactly what it looks like, right? I think. My daughter, who usually struggles with anxiety, jumped from a height that she's never jumped before.
All right, you ready? No. You got to brave it up now. 1, 2, 3, go. Yeah.
And we were just so proud of her. And I kept throughout the trip telling her, you did a hard thing. You did something that was hard for you. You know, it gave you anxiety. It caused you to be nervous, but you did it. It was beautiful to see her come out of her shell in that way. And it was just such a lovely experience to be sitting in Jamaica, sitting in waterfalls, watching my kids play like they used to when they were kids. Blue Hole is definitely worth the money. The end of May is rainy season in Jamaica. It rained every day that we were there, but it never impeded our trip. Like, it never stopped us from doing anything. But it's also a very good time to go because there's not a lot of tourists. So when we went to Blue Hole, there was just a few people. And then after we left Blue Hole, we went to Dunn's River Falls, which is the tourist spot in Jamaica. There were barely any people there. And if you've ever been to Dunn's River Falls at peak season, you know that it gets crowded with people coming from cruises, and it's just a mess. Mr. Winston drove us to Dunn's River Falls, and we get there and we didn't use a guide this time. We did kind of follow along other people. There's places where you can climb the waterfall without having to go over the rocks, or you can climb the rocks. You know, Hector used to do this in Puerto Rico in the charcas, in the falls. So we were very familiar with it. We had already done it. And there's also spots where you can jump into the water, and our daughter and son did that. And when you get to the top of Dunn's River Falls, you can also walk on a little pier to get to the top of Dunn's River Falls. You just feel so accomplished, and it's just such a beautiful place. It's so serene, so calm, especially when there's not a lot of tourists. It costs $25 per person to get into Dunn's River Falls, and you can use a guide or you can skip the guide. That's usually up to you. We went back to Mr. Winston's van and he drove us to Scotchy's. It has amazing jerk chicken, jerk pork, all the things that you expect from Jamaica. Just seeing them cooking the chicken on the pimento wood, being there to talk to the people cooking your food and sharing laughs with them. But sitting down with Mr. Winston, you know, we asked him to join us for lunch, and he did, thankfully. And just talking to him and him telling us about, you know, little Jamaicanisms and the customs in Jamaica and the things that they say. And
we have fun.
So we
Jamaica,
boil
when
it.
the food sweet, we said, we call this one lick pot sweet.
it was so nice. I mean, I just cannot get over how much I adored Mr. Winston. He was just a wealth of knowledge, and sharing a meal with him was, I think it was better than actually eating the jerk. chicken or pork. He delivered us safely back home, and you know, I wanted to take a picture with him because I want to keep in touch with him. You know, I want to learn his bush medicine recipes. I believe that people should know about Mr. Winston because he is a gem in our world. Yeah, if you do Dunn's River Falls or Blue Hole, book with Tour Jamaica today and ask for Mr. Winston specifically. You will not regret it. And talk to him. Day 2, we were supposed to go on our trip of Mobe with G, but he got fired. So instead, our daughter wanted to treat us to a spa day, and she wanted to treat herself too. Our son's not into spas, so he just kind of hung out at the pool, said it was cool, you know, and ended up going to the room and just sitting on the patio for a little while. But we went to the Round Hill Spa, and we booked their spa packages. Hector and I did a couples massage that included facials, a body massage, and pedicures. And our daughter got a separate package with a body wrap and all kinds of stuff. I think she ended up having a reaction to it, but it was all good. It wasn't too bad. We really enjoyed our spa day. It was very relaxing. It's exactly what you want a spa day to be. The facial was a basic facial. I mean, it was just, everything was just good. It wasn't the best spa day I've had, but it wasn't the worst either. It was adequate, and the price matched the service. Don't forget to tip your masseuse, your masseur, your esthetician, and the people that do your nails. And then for the rest of the day, we just chilled at the beach, at the pool. Like we really went into chill mode. That was a laid back day. We were kind of recovering from travel. Now, I know a lot of people pronounce it Negril, especially in the States, but Jamaicans pronounce it Negril. So that is how I will pronounce it, because how you gonna go to Jamaica and tell them they pronouncing their stuff wrong? That's crazy. Again, G was not allowed to take us because he tried to scam us. And instead, we booked a transfer with Ferguson's Tours, and Orlando was our driver. Orlando is a young man who is cool as hell. Like, he is cool as a cucumber. My guy, the van was too small, and I had to sit in a very precarious spot between the twins because I'm the shortest. And that was the only thing that I was not happy about. The vehicle was too small for us. But Orlando, again, just like Mr. Winston, was Johnny on the spot with telling us about Jamaican stuff. He gave us very good advice as far as spending money in Jamaica. What Orlando said is to go into a store and ask them what the exchange rate is. It's currently like $155 Jamaican dollars to $1 US dollar. And he told us if they say anything higher than 160, they're trying to scam you. He said a bottle of wata, which is the bottled water that's very popular in Jamaica, cost $1 US dollar. So if they're telling you that that bottle costs $3, they're trying to scam you. He also told us that G did try to scam us with the KFC trip. So just to know, we ain't being like Americans. He tried to scam us. But Orlando on the trip just explained so much more about Jamaican culture, about the way the police work in Jamaica, so many things. And he was just such a personable guy, you know, really chill, really cool, really respectful, very professional, safe driver. This kid, like, you'd think a young man would be a speed demon. My guy was doing the speed limit, but it wasn't like we were never rushed. And he glided us to Negril. Negril is a very beachy spot. If you've ever been to Ocean City or Wildwood, New Jersey, or a beach town like the Outer Banks, it's got that vibe, but better because it's in the tropics. We stayed at Skylark Beach Resort. Orlando dropped us off at Skylark, and we just kind of settled in. And overall, we were okay with the resort. It is a beach resort. The property is beautiful. There's no real security. I saw other resorts had like gates, arms, and stuff like that. There was just traffic cones at Skylark, and you walk into the lobby and you have access to the entire property. I'm always conscious of like security. I didn't feel like there was enough security at Skylark. Anybody could walk in to anywhere if they wanted to. And the hotels, it's very motel. It gives motel vibes because of the way the rooms are set up. But it's right on 7 Mile Beach. And 7 Mile, it's exquisite. It's everything they tell you it is, with a lot of hawkers. There's a border that they create at Skylark with security, and they stand there and they let the hawkers only deal with the people in the first row, and they call it out to the people like lounging on the second and third and fourth rows. You have to actually go to the hawker if you want to buy what they're selling. So we saw them selling beads, jewelry, sugarcane, coconut, and weed, obviously. And there's also people who are trying to get you to take tours. You know, they have this race car tour, like race car jet ski situation going on. They have parasailing, glass boat tours. So there's a lot of stuff to do, and you can do a lot of those things from the beach at Skylark. Skylark also has a spa, and they have, you know, all kinds of stuff. The amenities are lacking, and their minibar prices are insane. There's no free like water, there's no free coffee. You have to buy your coffee at Miss Lily's, which is the restaurant that is attached to the property. Fantastic restaurant. The staff at Miss Lily's is dope as hell. I loved all of the people we encountered at Miss Lily's because they weren't pretentious. They were very, you know, chill. The staff at Skylark front desk were kind of standoffish. It didn't seem like they wanted to engage much in conversation. And I'm a person that likes to, you know, like talk to the people that I'm working with at hotels and such. I think the housekeeper that we asked to give us new towels, because we didn't really use housekeeping services, she was the kindest person that I met at Skylark. The beds were fine. The room was fine. It was sufficient. I feel like I could have used more space to hang my toiletries or put stuff up in the bathroom. But other than that, it was just like value for the money. Like I didn't feel like we got cheated out of anything that we paid for at Skylark. They have a sister property called the Rock House Hotel. The day after we arrived was snorkel day for us. We are avid snorkelers. We love to snorkel. And snorkeling off the cliffs of Negril and in 7 Mile Beach was one of our goals. So we actually paid for a ride to go to Rock House earlier because the shuttle only operates like at 10, and went over to Rock House. And they have a great setup. There's a pool, and right off the pool, there are different access points from the cliffs for you to get into the Caribbean Sea. We got all our snorkel gear together. We snorkeled along the cliffs of Negril. There were grottos that we went into. You could jump from heights. Our daughter, again, jumped from heights, which, you know, made us very proud. It was a very beautiful day of snorkeling. I almost lost my phone because I dropped it, but it got caught in the reef, and my husband was my hero. He went down and got it. I don't know what I would have done had I lost my phone in Jamaica, but I didn't because my husband saved it. So shout out to Hector. And then we just stayed at Rock House, ate some food, ate some burgers. The staff at Rock House were very kind and helpful and professional, funny. And then we caught the shuttle back to get ready for dinner at Miss Lily's. The shuttle is free, by the way. When we got back from Rock House, we just kind of chilled at the beach. At Skylark, and that was real comfortable because they have service, restaurant service from Miss Lily's on the beach, so you can pretty much set up there and be chill. We knew that we wanted to eat at Miss Lily's because it is a very popular restaurant. Miss Lily's was nice. It was a laid-back environment. I loved it because it had a dance hall feel, and you know, I came of age in Jamaican dance halls, so it just was very nostalgic for me. And they had food on the menu that was more in line with Jamaican culture, more so than Round Hills was. So like they had cornmeal porridge. They also had ackee and saltfish. The prices were a little like, they were on the more expensive side for what they were. And I guess that's a problem that, like, as a chef, I'm always thinking about, yeah, that's not how much that should be based on what the dish is. But again, they're trying to make money. I don't remember there being a meal plan, so you have to deal with, you know, filling out the check and doing all that stuff. But Miss Lily's is worth a visit. Yep, that's me. You're probably wondering how I got here. Yeah, it's not that serious. I actually forgot to record a segment for Rick's Cafe, and you can't go to Negril without going to Rick's Cafe. So here's just a quick recap of video, some pictures that we took with the kids. Listen, Rick's Cafe is a tourist trap. It's cool to see people jump from cliffs. You can jump from the cliff. You can pay really high prices for mediocre food and drinks, but you gotta go at least see the sunset. And now back to our regularly scheduled programming. I think we're on, we're on day 5 now. Day 5, we booked a tour with Chukka Tours, which I roll my eyes because Chukka is like the enabler of bad tourism in Jamaica. but it was also the most convenient one, and it was a semi-private tour, so it was going to be a smaller tour. And we booked that tour to go to Appleton Estate, which is the rum distillery of Jamaica. We also did in that trip Wyas Falls, which is another waterfall in Jamaica, and a Black River Safari. Black River Safari was cool as hell. My son is a biologist. He knows everything about animals. And this was basically his tour. As soon as we got into the water, our guide started driving the boat and we saw alligator, crocodile. I don't know what they are. They're reptiles. Anyways, I think they're crocodiles. I think it was an alligator. I feel like it was a crocodile, a reptile. Anyways, so we saw a lot of them. And he was able to point out all the other wildlife. He also pointed out some of the damage from Hurricane Melissa, which just hit Jamaica last year. Boats were overturned, but we were able to see fishermen in the water and just experience the Black River. Now, the Black River is fed from Wyas Falls, which we were going to later, which was really interesting. So it's interesting to see where it ends up, the community that surrounds it, and the wildlife that is within the Black River. So I definitely think that that is worth a visit. It's a very short tour, so you may not feel like you're getting your money's worth, but I felt like it was worth the tour. And then at one point we turned around and our daughter's driving the boat. And I'm like, oh, you don't want to drive in San Antonio, but you'll drive a boat in Jamaican River. But yeah, so that was a great tour. I really liked that tour. And then we went to Wyas Falls. Wyas Falls is probably the closest thing I've ever seen to heaven. Like, this place is beautiful. And what I loved most about it was that there were so many Jamaicans there just enjoying the space, right? There were less tourists, more Jamaicans, which I really loved. And I'll be honest, I was kind of jealous because you get to go here on Saturday and I get to go to like Six Flags. But Wyas Falls, I will say, you should definitely do it with a guide because that current is much stronger and more forceful than what I've experienced at Blue Hole or Dunn's River Falls. If you're not in shape or you don't have strong legs or you have accessibility issues, you might want to consider like sitting this one out and just enjoying the view. There are spots where you could just walk into the water and just chill. That was probably the strongest currents I've ever experienced. And it was also probably because it rained. We started out with the guide, and I swear this guy was trying to kill us because at one point he was like, go sit over there under the waterfalls. I'm like, bro, I can't, this current is pulling me. I feel like I'm drowning. He was like, just take the picture. So I took the picture. And at one point he just left us. Like, I was like, bro, where's our guide? There was another spot where you could jump off into the falls. My daughter did that again. And I'm just so proud of her because she was doing really hard things and really stepping out of her comfort zone. Wyas Falls is definitely worth the visit. I think everybody should see it. I think you should kind of spend more time. We didn't get enough time, but spend more time at Wyas Falls just soaking up the beauty of Jamaica. It was so worth the trip. And that trip from Negril to Wyas Falls took us about 2 hours. So it was worth the trip though. Beautiful spot. Definitely see Wyas Falls if you see anything in Jamaica. Another part of that trip obviously was the Appleton Estate Distillery tour. I usually don't drink Appleton rum. I'm a gin drinker, but I loved seeing the process. And we walked through the entire process. Our guide Tiffany was, you know, she was engaging, she was funny, she just made the tour really nice. And you just basically tour the estate. They give you a nice welcome drink, rum punch or something else. It was like a sea breeze or a breeze something. That one was good. That was the one I got. It had bitters and Appleton rum and lime juice or something. There's a monument at Appleton Estate to the enslaved people that were exploited to produce the rum back in the old days. They were the sugarcane cutters. They were people who worked in the fields in the humidity, and it was grueling. I couldn't imagine cutting sugarcane, being cut by the blades of the sugarcane plant, using the machete in humidity that is insane and heat that is crazy hot. So the monument to the enslaved peoples was touching. It was moving, and I appreciate that they are honoring them in that way by placing that monument right in the center of the estate grounds so that you can remember that your rum came at a price. But the tour was amazing. You got to see all the aspects of the rum making process, the distilling process. They let you taste fresh sugarcane, which we were so excited for. I think I took an extra bag, but I had permission to take 2 bags. We were able to taste the molasses, which, by the way, I think they just dumped store-bought molasses into the pot and pretended like it was like they brewed it. We got to see the process of pressing the sugarcane with a burro or a donkey, and then we got to see the process of pressing the sugarcane with the sugarcane machine. We actually, 2 people in our tour had to like do it, and I was like, well, more power to you. And then we got to sample the different rums. My kids had their first taste of rum, and it was interesting to see them do the tasting. You know, you do a tasting of the varieties of rums that they offer, and it was cool to see my kids kind of like taking their first drink of rum. You know, they're going to be 21 in July, and I want them to learn how to drink responsibly if they choose to drink. So that's kind of like, that was their intro. And then we saw a peacock. Oh, we were saying that peacock was showing off for us. It was so cute. Appleton Estate Distillery tour is worth the money and the trip, I feel, from Negro. But that tour was long. It was a very long day. And by the end of the tour, everybody on the tour was kind of just beat. It was also our last day in Jamaica. So, you know, we found a roadside spot to eat dinner. It wasn't anything I would recommend, so I don't think the name really matters. And then we got back to Skylark. The next day we were going to leave, and we weren't getting picked up till 9 o'clock. So Hector and I woke up super early, around 6 o'clock in the morning, to go out and just spend one last time at the beach. We smoked a spliff in the beach and just chilled. But man, when I tell you, yo, they partied the night before, because that beach was wrecked. There were bathing suits. There were 2 bathing suits on some lounger. There were drug paraphernalia. It was like all over the place. So that's one thing about Skylark. I was like, y'all got to get this together. I realized that, you know, they have staff only for a certain amount of time, but man, that beach was crazy. Look at the beach. It was crazy. It was a nice way to begin our last day in Jamaica. We had Orlando from Ferguson's Tours pick us up again, and he drove us at a leisurely pace to Mobay and stopped at Juicy Patties so that we can get some beef patties and chicken patties before we left Jamaica. So we got to the airport super early. Our flight didn't leave until 3 o'clock. It was actually delayed an hour. It didn't leave till 3 o'clock, but we got there around 10:30 in the morning, because I was not playing with getting on this plane and getting home, because we needed to pick up Kylo Ren, our dog. So we got to the airport and used the Club Mobay lounge to just chill. We chilled for a few hours. They have drinks, they have food, they have all kinds of stuff. And it was just a good place to relax. And then when we got to Miami, our flight was delayed again. So we were in Miami for about 5 hours and used the American Airlines Admiral's Lounge to chill and to eat and to refresh there. That is the recap of our Bougie and Bohemian Jamrock family vacation. If you have any other questions about this trip, or you know, just want to share your experiences down in the comments below, that would be really cool. I'd love to hear your experience. If you are Jamaican, thank you for allowing me to and my family to visit your beautiful island and experience a taste of heaven. We appreciate you, and we appreciate and honor your space and your island. Yeah, so if you haven't already, subscribe to my channel, sign up for notifications so that you can get notified every time I post a new video, which will be more frequent. Thank you for being patient with me. Yeah, and until then, I will see you later. Go, scoot on up the road. Now, my stupid air conditioning is doing that bubbling thing, so just forgive it. There's so much noise with these trucks. Why am I doing this outside? I'm like trying to be all tropical and whatnot, and getting interrupted by construction trucks. Give me a break, bro. All right, I think it's quiet enough.